Welcome to the Explainer. We're going to jump right into a really important question that a lot of people have when they're planning for the future. When it comes to those final expenses, does Medicare actually help cover the cost of cremation? Let's find out.
So, this is the big one, right? This is probably the question that brought you here. Getting a straight answer on this is so important for financial planning, not just for you, but for your family too.
All right, so let's get you that answer. But first, to really understand it, you have to know what Medicare is actually for. Its whole purpose kind of sets the stage for what it will and won't pay for. Okay, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. The short, direct answer is a big, clear no. Medicare does not cover cremation. And, well, it doesn't cover any other funeral expenses either.
And here's the reason why, and it's a really crucial distinction. Medicare is health insurance. Its entire job is to cover your medical bills while you're living. So things like a stay in the hospital, your doctor's appointments, even end-of-life hospice care, that's its lane. It just wasn't built to handle any of the costs that come up after someone has passed away.
Okay, so knowing that Medicare is not an option makes understanding the real-world costs even more critical. So what kind of numbers are we actually talking about here?
Get ready for this. Back in 2023, the average funeral that included a cremation cost more than $6,000. I mean, wow. That's a serious expense for any family to suddenly have to face, especially knowing that no help is coming from federal health insurance.
And if you think that number's high, just for comparison, a traditional burial was even more expensive. The national average for that hit $8,300 in the same year. So you can totally see why a lot of people are looking at cremation as a more, cost-effective choice.
But here's where it gets even crazier. It's not just about burial versus cremation. Where you live in the U.S. has a huge impact on these costs. Just look at this table. In the mountain region, the average cremation is around $5,500. But then you look at New England, and it shoots up to over $7,000. That massive difference often comes down to things like the local cost of living and different state regulations.
So, if Medicare is out and the costs are high, where in the world can you turn for help? Well, the good news is there are other options out there for financial assistance. Let's explore what they are.
First up, for anyone who has served in the armed forces, this is for you. The Department of Veterans Affairs, the VA, offers some really important benefits. If a veteran's death is service-related, the VA can provide up to $1,500. And even if it isn't service-related, they can still help with up to $978 toward funeral expenses.
Another place to look for help could be your state's Department of Human Services, or DHS. Now, this is designed for citizens who have a real financial need. The DHS can pay up to $750. One key thing to know, though, is that the payment goes straight to the funeral director, and your local county office determines who's eligible after they review the deceased's finances.
The Social Security Administration also offers a pretty smart way to plan ahead. You're allowed to set aside up to $1,500 in what's called a dedicated burial fund. And here's the best part. As long as that account is clearly marked and you only use that money for funeral costs, it won't be counted against you for supplemental security income eligibility. That's a really big deal.
Okay, we've covered the big question, the costs, and some of the solutions. So let's just boil it all down to the three most important things you need to walk away with.
So let's break it down one last time. First, remember, Medicare is for healthcare, not funerals. Simple as that. Second, the costs are significant. We're talking thousands of dollars, so planning is a must. And third, even though Medicare isn't an option, there is help out there. You just have to look to other places like the VA, DHS, or do some pre-planning yourself with a burial fund.
And all of this brings us to our final and maybe most important question. And this one is for you to think about. It's one thing to know the facts, but it's another to take action. So, have you planned for your final expenses? I know it's not the most fun topic, but planning for this now can bring a whole lot of peace of mind, not just for you, but for your loved ones down the road.